Good afternoon. It's lovely to be with you today. I want to first thank the Association of African Universities for this unique opportunity to address you today, as well as our host, the University of Mohammed VI Polytechnic. This is an absolutely beautiful campus. It's the envy of the world. You can tell it's not only world-class facilities, but certainly sustainable in every right and just absolutely fantastic. So again, it is fantastic to be here. And one of the things that I just want to say from the beginning is we're going to talk about artificial intelligence today, but we're really talking about just a monumental disruption, a huge disruption. I think the World Economic Forum predicts that 92 million jobs will be lost by 2030 due to AI. But all correspondingly, we believe there'll be 170 million jobs that are created that frankly are upskilled in the era of AI. So although there's great disruption, with great disruption always comes great opportunity. Now, as you can sort of, my name, as suggested, is Mohammed Rafai. I'm actually, I think, very much a product of the spirit of this conference. I was born in Egypt, and my parents were educated here in Africa and Egypt in the late 60s at another time of huge disruption and transformation. And my father is from a village that's near Tanta in Egypt, a very poor, it's our ancestral village, very, as I said, steeped in poverty. And through, frankly, the efforts of that very upheaval, frankly, with great government assistance and social change, my father was able to get a PhD in engineering. His brother also had a PhD in engineering, and his other brother was a medical doctor, and his two sisters both received PhDs, one in mathematics and one in religion. And so, frankly, I'm very much a product of what is possible when we look at these times of disruption and social change and we lean into them and we look at what opportunities lay before us versus strictly those that are challenges. And so today, I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Before I do, I just again wanted to introduce myself. I actually work for Adobe. Adobe is a $21 billion company with about 30,000 employees worldwide, and we specialize in empowering individuals to imagine, create, and bring to life digital experiences. And with that, we do a lot in the area of digital media. You may know some of our brands such as Photoshop or Acrobat, those things that enable people to create on different, either in a creative manner or on the desktop. And we also have a very significant digital marketing business that allows chief marketing officers and others to be able to propel their business going forward. So as a digital company of the digital era, we are very invested in generative AI as a platform, and frankly, the pace of change is enormous. And so today, I just want to talk about this in the context of education. So what I do for Adobe is I'm the managing director of the education business segment worldwide that has both a component of engagement with customers, both in terms of what they may look at as well as in terms of customer success. All right, do I need to have a pointer? Maybe I should, or maybe I can just say next slide. I'm not really sure. I'll go through this kind of quick. All right. Do I have a pointer? My apologies. I probably should have figured this out first. Oh, there does seem to be a pointer here. Here we go. There we go. That's a good one. Please clap for me. That was a very good transition there. All right, so for the most part, what we're going to talk about today is how is creative generative AI currently being used in classrooms and universities today? How does it influence student outcomes? And how does it influence career outcomes? And how does it influence student personal well-being? So we surveyed about 2,800 educators worldwide for this particular survey. So the first thing is, what are educators looking for when it comes to generative AI? So we're in a world now where artificial intelligence is able to generate images, content, video, whatever it might be, on their own. So frankly, a preponderance of educators focused on privacy as a main concern, that the AI model was created ethically and responsibly, that it's used to verify whether those outputs are using AI, industry standard tools, AI model did not generate inappropriate content, and that the creative outputs were cleared for commercial use. So you can sort of see that overwhelmingly, the orientation here is around policy and not technology. It's this idea of the ethical use of not only the use of technology, but also how these models are trained. And that's a pretty core principle in terms of what we see from a lot of educators. I think a year ago, we were very much seeing a lot of pushback on AI being used either in the classroom or as a part of the curriculum. And frankly, that's completely flipped. And now that it's flipped in terms of being an expectation in terms of teaching and learning, the shift has really come down to a policy discussion, is how can these things be oriented in a way that enables them to be done in the right way. So again, preponderance of folks are focused on ethical use and safety and dealing with a large commercial entity. So 87% of college students are creating AI for their coursework, and 69% of those do it weekly. So again, the train has definitely left the station relative to college and university students believing that AI is central to the work that they do. So here, top areas that faculty find generative AI helpful for student creative projects and multimedia assignments. So the first one is increasing the speed of creation. You'll see here that overwhelmingly speed matters and it allows them to increase workflows. And this is an important consideration, I think, for educators. AI is creating a massive disruption in the commercial markets around speed. It's really a notion of speed. So frankly, when we look at AI, not only is it meant to improve the outcomes that we have, but it's also meant to improve the pace, as is clearly defined here. Improve creative confidence. What we find is creative confidence is usually very high in young children, and as you grow older, you lose creative confidence. How often in a kindergarten class do you ask, or in primary school, you ask, how many of you are great artists? And everyone's hands will go up. You ask that later in life, no one's hand will go up. And so this idea of creative confidence, we want to nurture that energy and build that muscle. Removing barriers for students without advanced skills, and this is really the idea of social equity. AI can definitely be used as a tool for social equity, but it frankly has to be something where equity of access is foundational. So often what we find is AI can absolutely be helpful for those who already have means, but frankly, universities and educators play a role in providing equity of access, and it's a very important component. Reducing instructional time, you can see it's helpful, and then reducing activity or homework timeline for those who aren't terribly interested in doing a lot of homework. So top educator motivations for using creative AI more often. 58% said improve student engagement, and 50% said improve student communication and self-expression. So these are key components that, frankly, it's about empowering students and not only the instruction. So how do students leave more empowered and more confident? And educators firmly believe that that's on the critical path to their success as well. So so these are 3 quotes. I'll just read one of them. So generative AI creativity helps my students get different views and helps their thinking process. This was an engineering faculty member. So again, we're talking about creative expression. There was clearly an intent from this engineering faculty member to see that in their student. Many students have creative visions but lack the skill sets to make them come to fruition. Using AI, students can bring their vision to life. Since creativity is natural, when a student competes at an endeavor using AI, she feels a sense of accomplishment, increasing her sense of well-being. So, as you can imagine, there are different issues across the globe relative to generative AI. And one of the things that we're seeing in many parts of the world is around student retention, but student retention is often correlated to student engagement. And now we live in a world where, frankly, the experience that students get outside the classroom, especially on mobile devices, are very rich experiences. And frankly, we need to, as educators, we need to match that richness within the classroom. And frankly, not only do we match that richness, but also this idea of being able to drive outcomes or the art of the possible that improves well-being. So retention is really, a cornerstone of retention is the idea of having student well-being and engaged students. And I think generative AI can be a path to that as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, we at Adobe are very focused on creativity as a foundational skill in modern workforce. Frankly, there's going to come a time when, frankly, knowledge is already available. With AI, it frankly makes that speed and the equity potentially something that we don't have to think about. What comes forth is do we believe that creativity is naturally or a human endeavor? And for us, we think that creative thinking is still critical in the workplace. So the large language models we're seeing will never replace human ingenuity and creative thinking. And so we think that, frankly, when we think about those skills that are most critical for students to learn, regardless of discipline, it's the idea of creative and critical thinking. And so this was done by the World Economic Forum as one of the top skills needed and required. And so if creativity is a fundamental human trait, how do we nurture that even in this world of AI? So this is what I quoted earlier. 92 million jobs by World Economic Forum are expected to be lost, but 170 million jobs are emerging. And frankly, this does challenge the status quo significantly. And I think this is where countries or institutions can leapfrog in very significant ways. And I'll just give you an example. We do have a set of creative tools that we provide to universities. Some of those are what we consider our creative cloud, which includes Photoshop and Acrobat. We also have a product called Adobe Express, which allows for creative expression across a multitude of modes, and frankly is at a very, very low cost. And it also includes generative AI. So within that, you're absolutely able to generate images, and it's a prompt-based LLM. And we've seen, frankly, whole countries emerge down that road. I think the UAE just entitled 100% of their public universities on it. We've seen Denmark has provided 100%. Malaysia has provided Adobe Express to 100% of their students. And I can go on. Sweden, I think 70% of students. In the UK, it's one in 4 students. And so what we're finding is a lot of ministries of education, a lot of education institutions view this as a chance, frankly, to step up and provide that equity of access, not only across institutions, but across whole countries, to enable them to be able to take advantage of this disruption. As I mentioned, every great disruption has great opportunity, and opportunity will emerge from this disruption, and it goes to those who grasp it. So employers are upskilling and hiring for new skills. This is really the idea. Is I think there's actually this slide goes into, but I think the next slide goes into a little clearer, is that really employers are beginning not to even look at employees in many countries who don't have AI as a core skill set, who don't have creative thinking or critical thinking as a core skill set. And so what we're seeing is not only is it an issue of I need to do this in order to make myself better at what I do, but it becomes a critical part of employability. Employability is AI knowledge and capability is going to become, or if it hasn't already, a cornerstone to employability. So this is where I was going to go with it. So 71% of leaders are likely to hire a less experienced candidate with AI skills than experienced one without them. 77% leaders say early in-career talent will get greater responsibilities due to AI. And 66% of leaders said they would not hire someone without AI skills. And so this is the world that students are going into. We can certainly look at the way we educated and the way we prepared students in the past, but they're increasingly entering a workforce globally that will require them to have AI skills as part of their portfolio. So in the creative industries, you'll see here that a number of them, the creative occupations, have the highest percentages of members of LinkedIn adding AI aptitude. So when you look at LinkedIn, you'll see that these folks, content writers, graphic designers, marketing managers, these folks are the most likely to add AI as part of their aptitude on LinkedIn. And this is actually kind of where the whole presentation is going, is if you're a student in a university, how does it show through that you have creative and critical thinking skills? Like, how is that something that you can show an employer? How can you show them that you have AI skills? So 86% of educators believe that teaching students creative generative AI will enhance their chances of securing a job. And 38% indicated that improved career prospects for students is a top reason they encourage responsible use of creative. So it's clear that educators are starting to get that message. And so this is really, I think, at least for this presentation, there's lots of things we can talk about AI, but I think one of the biggest things is how do you showcase that capability in a world where our traditional credentialing, frankly, doesn't address it at all. It doesn't address credentialing in those areas. And so so what we have is we've come out, and I did see that the theme of the conference, one of the sub-themes was on artificial intelligence, and there was discussion of Coursera or other partnerships. I think it could also be extended to credentialing, to be honest. This is an area where we provide a number of micro-credentials. One is in the area of creative skills, a job application course, some career certificates in Coursera, and then Adobe Certified Professional. And what you'll be able to do, there's actually a couple of certifications that directly mention AI, presentation skills in the era of AI. And what that allows you to do is these micro-credentials can be put, if you have an engineering student, a nursing student, someone who traditionally wouldn't be able to showcase those skills, now can use these micro-credentials as a way for employers to see what they're about. The good news is when it comes from a company like Adobe or from someone Coursera, it adds that additional weight that it's been vetted and part of a broader schema. So this, frankly, is a way that we're partnering with universities across the world to make this part of their curriculum programs to ensure that their students are able to not only get the training and the education they need, but also to be able to have credentials that those employers or hiring managers will see them as being useful. So the Creative Edge Research, Design, and Scope, to shed light on this, Adobe commissioned a global study around higher education institution employers. So we surveyed 1,500 managers, and we had a number of people sort of come forward. So this is what they said: why digital credentials are valuable to employers. So hiring managers essentially had to rate these statements. 81%, it's easier to assess if candidates have the necessary skills. It's a cost-effective way for employees to increase skills outside of what's provided by their organization. Signals high-quality candidate. That's a really key point, is how they differentiate themselves. And my organization seeks people with this, and candidates with these skills deserves higher compensation. So again, we think micro-credentialing is a very good, an important augmentation in the fast-moving, disruptive place that generative AI is providing in order to help students along the way. So for an agreement is across industries that digital and creative skills are essential. You'll see here that digital and document creation organization, visual media, and multimedia content, you'll see again that hiring managers and career seekers both perceive them to be very, very important on a go-forward basis. Okay, so creative problem solving is the ability to think differently about a problem and generate new solutions. Visual design skills mean that creator can put written language and pictures together in a way that is clear and focused for the audience. So again, we often, in our travels, we spend a lot of time with educators, and especially around multimodal assessments, as well as the ability to be able to communicate visually. And we are finding that of course, essays and those requirements are falling by the wayside, and we're seeing creative expression be the mode that, frankly, the modern student that we assess the modern student, either through graphics or video or other things. Because frankly, in the workplace, I've been in business for many years, I don't think I've ever written an essay. And so, I've had to do a lot of presentations. I've done some videos, some things with the team. And so for me, creative expression becomes the way I communicate thoughts and ideas and I influence. And so for going forward, we think this is the mode that becomes the most important going forward. So the rising importance of creative skills, you can see that curiosity and lifelong learning, resilience and flexibility remain very important. So again, certifications, we value hard work and dedication, and we appreciate that from a US hiring manager. So with that, I just want to offer a couple of thoughts in closing. You've been very kind, and thank you very much for participating. So as I suggested, Adobe is a worldwide company. We do have a number of programs, and I'll be here during the week if you'd like to discuss them further. The Creative Campus program is our flagship program where we partner with the universities. They're able to use that brand in terms of recruiting and engaging with students. And there's also a number of tools, both our ones at no cost and premium, that are available to you as well. So anyway, I thank you so much for the time this afternoon, and I appreciate it very much. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that insightful presentation. I don't know whether I was dozing or not, but most of what I listened to were dealing with the students, using creative AI, the output. Now you have these, the teachers or the lecturers. The presentation assumes that the lecturers are already, ahead of the students. So what are we going to do? What should we do to ensure that they're also brought up to speed so that they can impact that knowledge using generative AI to the students? Thank you. As I said, maybe I was dozing. I didn't capture that aspect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I would be surprised if you were dozing because my presentation was very captivating. But what I would say is this particular question comes up with great frequency, and it's an excellent question. And that is, how do we enable faculty and staff to be able to not only, not only students would use it, but how are they able to enable it both in their teaching as well as their curriculum? How can it become something where they're on par or ahead of students? And there's a few ways we think about it. One is I didn't address the portfolio of things. We do have a portfolio of things that allow faculty and staff to be much more effective. And I'll just say one thing on that, and then I'll go to what we've done with other universities. There's definitely emerging within the generative AI workflow this idea of consumption, creation, collaboration. Like those three things become very important. There are three separate things today. What I mean by consumption is you often go to a large language model, you ask it some questions, it spits something out. You really never do. The only reason, I should say, many times you do that is to be able to communicate something. You need something in a form of a presentation, a graphic, a table. And then you want to collaborate. You want others to maybe look at it, comment on it. And so that workflow, frankly, is something that is emerging as a single seamless workflow. And so for faculty and staff, we've created a number of tools that allow faculty and staff to use that workflow, both in curriculum development as well as in teaching. And it's fairly simplified, and it's something which, if anyone wants to discuss with me further, I can give you a glimpse into. Most of the time when we deal with this question, it's centered on faculty enablement. So there's two schools of thought with this. There are some universities that say, my faculty will never get there, I need to get to the students right now. So we create very student-specific engagement portfolios. There are other universities that say this will never work unless I get faculty buy-in, so I need you to start with my faculty and then work to students. And so in those cases, we usually put off the payoff for a couple of years until we've thoroughly enabled the faculty on the generative AI tools and their use in the classroom, for instance, with multimodal assessment or career readiness. And so there's no shortcut to an engaged faculty that's enabled on Gen AI. We frankly have a number of enablement tools that bring faculty and staff along.
All right, thank you very much. And I will invite Professor Obadina to join me up here so he can confer upon you a very special
Okay.
celebratory item. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well done. It has been conferred. And a photograph to authenticate. Splendid. All right, so distinguished guests, we're moving on to the next session on stakeholders engagement, and this one is towards harmonization in African higher education, impacts and opportunities under the HealthAfrik initiative, chaired by Professor Soleimani Konate, Secretary General, Conseil Africain et Malgache pour l'enseignement supérieur, CAMES. And as Professor Soleiman Konate makes his way up here, I want to invite all stakeholders involved to join us here as well. A round of applause for Professor Soleimani.
Thank you very much. So, as you all know, due to the massification problem in our universities, due to also the lack of infrastructure, the decrease also in resources, we all observe a degradation of the quality in higher education. This is why the questions of harmonization and quality assurance become crucial for our higher system. Today, we will discuss in this panel about harmonization in African higher education, impact and opportunities under the AAU initiative. We will have, I think, 3 presenters and 45 minutes. I don't know where are the other presenters. Professor Nzonga? Okay, they are coming. So as I said, in the next 45 minutes, we will take a quick but insightful look in AAU initiative has contributed to strengthen quality assurance data system and policy dialogue in Africa, and hear directly also from key regional actors about how these efforts are being aligned with their own strategic policies. So let us welcome now Madame Koulishi Elizabeth. So she will give us an introductory word about the AAU initiative. Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. If I want to change the slides, it's this, is it not? Okay, thank you, everyone. You're brave to stay with us into the afternoon. I think that we can be concise in this session. It's an important session, so please stay with us. And I think it's symbolical, the representatives we have in this session and the chairing of Professor Konate, because the HealthAfrik initiative is one that is very much built in African intra-stakeholder collaboration. There is leadership at the level of the Association of African Universities, who is a co-implementing partner, and Professor Oyewole had intended to be on this panel with us today. He had a very important meeting to go to with the minister. But I think it's noteworthy that this initiative represents a very tight-knit interaction and consortium of African partners representing different African stakeholder communities in different African regions, and you see some of them represented on the panel today. I will be brief. I would like to give you a few updates on the HealthAfrik initiative. Some of you might know it, some of you might not. There are a number of very important opportunities forthcoming. for higher education institutions, but also for authorities in different African countries. And I wanted to highlight those. And after that, the idea is that we would hear from some of the partner organizations implementing the initiative to talk about what it means to them in their specific regions and with their constituencies. So that slide was just about AAU, but as I had the privilege of giving you some welcome words this morning, I will skip that. I am here in this position now because AAU is the coordinating institution of the HealthAfrik initiative in collaboration with the Association of African Universities, the German Academic Exchange Service, the European Association for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, and 9 strategic implementing partners. And again, 3 of them are represented here on this panel. HealthAfrik was about quality assurance, if you saw the title of it, but it's also about more broadly harmonization and integration in the African continent. And it's been supporting that for close to 11 years now. This initiative started in 2015. But I think it's gained relevance, and it's gained relevance because of a number of very important disruptors. I don't have to name them all. We just had a session on AI, so I think it's very clear. Digital transformation, the quality and integrity of digital learning or learning in a digitalized landscape, the pressures we feel for recognition of qualifications falsification, and beyond that, the need for crisis management, I think, in many regions right now, and the role that higher education plays. So quality assurance is integral to it all, and it puts a lot of stresses and a lot of demands and expectations on quality assurance. And HealthAfrik intervenes on this level, and it supports an articulation, common standards, and a common language for quality assurance in Africa. And it also is very importantly trying to show that quality assurance in African higher education is part of a much bigger puzzle for integration more broadly. You'll see the role it plays in trade, in science capacity, in employment, in peace building, in meeting the SDGs. We had a presentation this morning on the new CESA strategy, and there are complementary strategies where you see quality of the higher and relevance of the higher education sector playing a role. The African Continental Free Trade Area being one, and the STISA, which is the sister strategy to the CESA, the Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa. And that's why if you look at the long name of HealthAfrik, you see its harmonization in big letters, comma, quality assurance and accreditation in African higher education. So it really has a broader policy scope, and I want to stress the different opportunities it has to offer in that broader policy scope. What it is and what it is not. So it is a long-term structural investment of the European Union in African higher education integration. It does that in partnership with the African Union. It is technically a technical assistance, so this is financial support brought by the European Union, so it doesn't necessarily solve the problem that was revealed in the last session about how do we invest, or how does Africa invest in its own higher education development. But I think it is a step in the right direction, in that it's very much rooted in stakeholder ownership and implementation, and hence why we have all the strategic implementing partners. And it's also highly synergetic with other investments and agendas, and I could cite, for example, the important work that UNESCO does across the continent, now with its Campus Africa program, but also other very specific target investments that other partners make, like the German Academic Exchange Service, specifically on the quality assurance and quality assurance training sector. What is it not? It's not an investment only in quality assurance, as I just mentioned. It's not, or it shouldn't be, competing with regions and their investments in quality assurance and their frameworks and their standards, and that's why we have colleagues here from CAMIS today and also from SADC. It's not a substitute for African Union member state investment in African higher education, we must be very honest, but it's trying to build towards that. And it's not disaligned with African Union strategies and frameworks. In fact, it's very much contributing to bringing them forward. And here, to give you an example, this is the African Union's framework. This was endorsed in 2015, the Pan-African Quality Assurance and Accreditation Framework. And it highlights a number of action areas and a number of tools that are supposed to contribute to the articulation and harmonization of African higher education and quality assurance, amongst those being African standards and guidelines for quality assurance, for example. Another instrument being an African credit transfer system. Many of these instruments didn't exist in 2015. This was an aspirational framework, and I think HAQUA, in partnership with other organizations that you see on the right hand of the slide, has helped to bring these different action lines forward and develop these different tools. Okay, so I just want to very quickly the objectives and then the opportunities, and then I will pass it on to my colleagues. HAQUA intervenes at the level of quality assurance culture for higher education institutions and at the level of quality assurance culture for quality assurance agencies and authorities, and that duality is very important to the initiative. It is also intervening at the level of data for evidence-based policymaking, a challenge that has been evoked many times already just today. Its broader ambition is to provide African countries with the skilled workers, managers, and administrators they need to foster sustainable development and encourage the trade and investment they need, as well as enhance citizenship and democratic values. And I would like to stress enhanced citizenship, democratic values, and sustainable development. Why? I think there's a lot of initiatives today that are very interested in economic development and competitiveness. That's great. We need that. But if it's not balanced with sustainable development and a values-based cooperation to enhance citizenship and democratic values, I think something is lost. And that is at least a value proposition that HAQUA brings and a value proposition that the EU brings in partnering with Africa. There you see the strategic partners, 9 of them, representing associations of universities, quality assurance networks and authorities, different African regions and linguistic groups, students associations like the ASU. This is a key group of stakeholders because they are really the ones that drive this agenda. And anything that is going to work on continental level can't work if it's not adopted fully by these organizations. CAMES, SARUA, IUCEA. It's impossible to jump to the continental level if we don't have those associations that really comprise at the regional level African cooperation adopting the mission. And the principles of HAQUA, so continuity with what's been done. I think it's unique because it's been a long-term investment in this quality assurance and harmonization agenda since 2015, so continuity, building on what's been achieved, disseminating what's been disseminated, training trainer approaches, etc., respecting African diversity and regional dynamics, as I just mentioned, building African capacity to lead, building an understanding of regional integration more holistically, multilingualism, and I think HAQUA has served as a very important platform to promote higher education cooperation between different linguistic communities and countries in the African continent, empowering female leaders, Africa in a global context, embracing digitalization, and of course greening and sustainability. Okay, so just in brief, how could you benefit from HAQUA? Many of you might know HAQUA from the opportunities it's provided in quality assurance training. This has happened both for professionals working in your universities. In fact, a long-term established training program has been rolled out in different regional cohorts. We have a large group of what we call now ambassadors or graduates of those cohorts. There's also been training for authorities working in higher education, accrediting bodies, regulatory bodies, quality assurance agencies. But beyond that, there's other exciting opportunities. And there you see these opportunities fall under 5 key work areas. New to this round of HAQUA, because we are in the 3rd phase, is the work that's being done under the piloting of an African credit transfer system. This is still very much a document that sits on a shelf. the African credit transfer system. Extensive work has been done to study different African credit systems and to think about the purpose of such an African credit system as a currency for intra-Africa mobility and recognition, but it hasn't really been brought to fruition. So through the HACWA program in the coming 2 years, we will be offering a pilot opportunity for 15 countries that have been established in terms of political interest and willingness to work with a cohort of universities and pilot the African credit transfer system and also map their own mobility and recognition, gaps, opportunities, caveats, etc. Another work area of HACWA is the data capacity work area, data for policymaking. And in this work area, there will be a large training program rolled out, again, to authorities and higher education institutions, helping them to explore how more effective data pipelines can be built. I think our colleague Boren from UNESCO mentioned this morning that very few African countries report to UNESCO UIS for many reasons. And that means that we don't really know where Africa stands in meeting its policy goals. And the purpose of this intervention is to talk not just about, well, how can we get some data now, whatever it is, but how can we build an ecosystem for capacity generation, for more reliable and systematic data that can be then aggregated and compared and give the African Union and different African integration bodies a better sense of where we are in terms of our objectives. And then finally, I would reference the opportunities that we have under capacity building for regional integration. Online MOOC series on comparative regional integration in the higher education sector, policy briefs being produced. Earlier this year in Yaoundé, we celebrated a large conference on the role of higher education as it relates to the African Continental Free Trade Area, so crossing the higher education and economic integration agendas. So again, very important opportunities under this area as well. I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to highlight maybe one thing that you might find interesting. When it comes to the training and capacity building being done for internal quality assurance and external quality assurance. So if you are a quality assurance leader in your institution, or if you come from an authority, you can benefit from 2 upcoming calls. One coming out in the beginning of 2026 for these countries. This is a linguistic regional grouping, co-developed with AEF, the Annex Soup from Senegal, and Kamez, who's with us here today. And again, they are the conduits for this training in collaboration with the HACWA team. This is an online training leading to a certificate, and the beneficiaries of these trainings are allowed to apply for small grants for dissemination projects in their respective regions and countries. And if you're from any of these countries, there will be a call coming out in the second half of 2026. So do take note. And then finally, just to say that we have ongoing the opportunity for countries and their national authorities to participate in an external assessment of their quality assurance agency or authority. Why? The idea is to assess the agency or authority against African standards and guidelines to ensure a compatibility, to ensure a compliance, and also as a developmental measure to support that agency or authority in their transition. This has already been going on for the past 7 years. In this phase, we're offering 3 different types depending on the maturity of the agency or authority. And you see in 2026, 25, there are 15 countries participating. You see on the map, including Morocco, in this exercise. So I mean, you might be, if you're from one of these countries, please take note that your relevant higher education accrediting body or quality assurance body will be subject to voluntarily participate in an external evaluation, which demonstrates a tremendous will to adhere to the African standards and guidelines and to promote African integration in the quality assurance sector, particularly as it relates to recognition of quality assurance decisions. Okay, I will stop there. This was, I think, a very short insight But you're welcome to visit the website and have more information on what's going on. Again, many opportunities for higher education institutions and authorities. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, Kulishi, for this very large and rich overview on what is ACWA, how is ACWA working, and what is ACWA doing. Now let us turn to our regional partner so that they can give us an overview also on how this initiative is aligned with strategies and the priorities at the regional level. So let me introduce you Professor Stephen Simukanga, who is Executive Secretary of the Southern Africa Regional Universities Association, the SARUA. So, Prof, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me try this. Okay. So the generative AI is working now. Okay, good afternoon. And I know that you have gone beyond your attention span, but I'll try to be quick in my presentation. So I'm going to look at the regional policies and programs that SARUA is leading, which are linked to the ACWA initiative that we just heard from Elizabeth. We have what we call a strategic focus area under SARUA, and this is on institutional quality management, where the ACWA initiative is housed. All the activities that we do under ACWA initiative is in this strategic focus area. I'll demonstrate the synergies and joint activities that we do, and also what we are doing in terms of developing a higher education database for SADC, and also the outcomes and the impacts that this program has brought. This strategic focus area I mentioned on internal quality assurance, basically it's to support SADC higher education institutions to build robust internal quality systems which are aligned with international and continental standards. The key deliverables, we started with a research. We did a state of play on IQA in SADC in 2021 to 2022. Then we created a community of practice for IQA. Basically, these are the staff from various universities that do this work. And also we've been undergoing or undertaking capacity building webinars and workshops under IQA. At a glance, and I think Elizabeth mentioned what ACWA is, it's basically harmonization. It's not arranged according to the name. Harmonization of African higher education quality assurance and accreditation. And the objectives, especially in the SADC region, is to strengthen quality assurance culture institutionally and nationally, and also enhance higher education institution capacities for internal and external quality assurance through the same program to support continental standards and framework, the PACWA, which Elizabeth mentioned, the African standards and guidelines, which we are trying to ensure that the universities internalize these guidelines at university level, and also support the development of database on higher education in the SADC region. This database will be housed at SADC, but we are involved as SARUA in its development. The state of play, basically we did a comprehensive mapping of policies, enablers, and barriers on IQA in the SADC. So there are also recommendations that came from there for institutional change management. We also did a multilingual dissemination report in English, French, Portuguese. We did a summary, but there is a full report that is coming shortly. So this informed, this state of play informed what we're doing in terms of capacity building. The community of practice, We had an inaugural webinar in 2023. We have about 78 quality assurance practitioners from across SADC that are involved in the community of practice. We have 5 members who coordinate, and it rotates in terms of convenership. We have quarterly webinars under this community of practice, and the thematic webinars are aligned to the priorities of HAQA. We did IQA, we have aligned up IQA webinars from 2023 to this year, and the topics basically are HAQA overview, EQA and IQA methods, data for policymaking, micro-credentials, which is becoming very important, and also generative AI impact, as we heard from the previous speaker. Under Train IQA, we collaborate with D.A.D. And the University of Potsdam in Germany. We have 2 cohorts, but there's one that is also starting in October this year, and basically to promote professionalism of quality managers. We're also involved in policy advisory and support. We participate in the HAQA Technical Working Group for PAQA, which is Pan-African Quality Assurance Alliance now instead of agency. We are involved in the Train IQA program. We recently signed an MOU with UNESCO ROSA. ROSA is a regional office in Southern Africa in Harare, and we've started doing capacity building workshops in the region. We're also participating in the drafting of recommendation, the structure, function and governance of PAQA, and also aligning SARUA's quality assurance activities with continental quality assurance frameworks. We recently had a workshop, in fact, a webinar on the Addis Convention as well as the Global Convention, so that our institutions are aligned to these very important conventions. I just mentioned the capacity building workshops we've been having with UNESCO ROSA. We are also developing a quality assurance handbook for the region, basically to promote quality assurance, working with UNESCO as well. This is work in progress. And I said we share outreach on global and Addis conventions. Next steps under quality assurance, we want to expand the community of practice because our membership in SARUA is growing, so we want to bring in more members in this community of practice. As I said, we'll translate the full state of play in Portuguese. We're having a 3rd cohort on Train IQA in October this year. Of course, finalizing the quality assurance handbook. And through AQUA 3, participate in developing the statutes for PAQA, because there's a governance body that will be created to implement the PAQA initiative. In terms of data, and this is very important for SARUA because we are seeing that the SADC ministers of education, are now seeing what we are doing, and we are working with SADC to implement most of these PAQA initiatives. Like in 2019, the ministers endorsed a comprehensive profile and database of higher education for the SADC region, and they said that this should be developed. That was in 2019. So we've been working with SADC over these years in developing this database. As we heard, you cannot plan without data. And most of our countries don't have data about higher education in terms of, how many students are we enrolling, how many are graduating, and so forth. So in terms of what we have done so far, the indicators on data elements, and I have a colleague here, Charles, I don't know where he's seated, who was involved in this. Templates have been developed, and we are using classification systems agreed upon by using the ISCED for education fields, and support from Obreo, Elizabeth, and UNESCO. We did a gap analysis, and this report is now on the state of play. on those countries that are listed there, Botswana, Lesotho, and Eswatini. Those we have done. And we also collected data from about 6 countries. Next steps, this is on data. There will be a statistical report. We'll conduct a workshop to review what has been achieved. More countries will be added to this work. And of course, additional data will be added later about what are the variables on research and innovation, publications, and student success indicators, and so forth. This happened last month. As I said, our ministers in the SADC region are engaged in what we are doing. They noted the report because the report was given to them, and then they urged the Secretariat to provide this data and populate. Directed also Secretariat to work with international cooperating partners to mobilize resources to continue this work. And also they insisted that we organize a regional capacity building program that will target authorities responsible for data collection. So this data collection initiative is slowly gaining momentum, and with the support of the ministers, we expect that this will grow. They also commended OBRE because they have been supporting, and UNESCO, they have been supporting this work. So generally on key outcomes on the HAQUA work, we have enhanced quality capacity in higher education, institutions across SADC. We have an active community of practice, which is working, and also promotion of harmonized quality assurance concepts is also growing in our institutions. We have stronger alignment of SADC higher education with HAQUA and continental frameworks, and also the development of higher education database in the region is growing and supported by ministers of education. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Simukanga, for this insightful and inspiring news from Southern African universities. So you present us what is Sarua and how you work with AQUA and other initiatives in order to really reinforce the quality assurance and higher education in Southern African region. Let us now move to the West and Central Africa region with African and Malagasy Council for Higher Education, CAMES. Professor Nzonga, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. As Elizabeth said in presentations, I can say the AQUA initiative aligns in many respects with the mandate of our Pan-African organization, which since its creation in 1963, has been committed to the integration of higher education and research policies in its member countries. And now we have 19 countries spanning West Africa, Central Africa, the Great Lakes region, and the Indian Ocean. Through my intervention, I wish to highlight 4 key areas in which ACA3 has enabled the development of concrete synergies in CAMES region programs while reversing our action and visibilities. The first one is the capacity building in quality assurance. The pictures that is in the slides was taken during the kickoff of AQUA3 in Namibia. Concerning this area, we contributed to the training model for quality assurance for professionals in higher education institutions. and then some CAMES staff members were trained on external quality assurance. In May 2025, we involved in the selection of regional dissemination project led by alumni. The impact of these actions are training of more than 250 quality assurance professionals from 17 countries, the emergence of a dynamic regional network with regular exchange on good practice, enhancement of skills contribute to the effectiveness of CAMES evaluation mechanisms. The second area is the harmonization of data collection in higher education. We supervise the designation of national focal points, for example, in Senegal, Cameroon, Congo, Madagascar. We organize a regional survey on data collection practices. We contributed to the roadmap for the pilot phase of the documents of the policy data unit. The scope and outlooks of these actions are a regional data system is being deployed, hosted by institution. About 30 higher education institutions will be covered in the pilot phase. Standards tools will ensure data comparability and transparencies in quality systems. The third area is our implication in PACWA and its technical unit. We participate in the regional consultation of the establishment of PACA in Yaoundé, in Cameroon, in May 2024. We are a member of the interim coordination unit of PACWA. We participated in the training on conducting agency evaluation. The impact of these actions are our contribution in the development of evaluation tools, our support to standards harmonization across agencies, the first step towards a current Pan-African architecture for quality assurance. And the last one is the dialogue and interregional cooperation. We participated in the second interregional dialogue on education and development in Africa, Latin America, and Caribbean, held in Addis Ababa in July of last year. As the conclusion, in summary, we can say Aqua3 enables CAMES to reach a new milestone in structuring quality assurance, data production, and continental policy dialogue. We reaffirm our commitment to working toward a progressive and a realistic harmonization of African higher education based on sound practice, reliable data, and a shared vision. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nzanga, for this overview on quality assurance questions in Central and West Africa and how CAMES is working together with Aqua Initiative. Now, let us give the floor to the participant if you have some questions directly to interact with these three actors. I can see hands there. Yes, please. You can just introduce yourself before you ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your report. Considering the
your name, please. Can you tell us your name?
Oh, okay.
Institutions.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Xiao. I come from China, Zhejiang Normal University. Thank you for your presentation. Considering the impact of the AI in higher education, especially the lecture for the creativity in higher education, what do you think AI impact for the HealthAfrik and the Pan-African quality assurance? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us take another questions. Or do you want to react directly? No, let us collect the question first. Yes, please. Your name, institution, and your question, please.
Thank you very much. Atanga Desmond from Cameroon, Kesmont International University. I would like to understand the relationship that is going to be established between CAMES, SAQA, under the mentorship or the leadership of HAQUA. How would the collaboration be to benefit private institutions? Because when you look at the quality assurance bodies you put and the various stakeholders involved, mostly public institutions are put in the agenda. Me, I am from a private university, so I'd like to see how my institution is going to benefit from a membership with CAMES, being in collaboration with HAQUA, and receiving funding from OBRIAL. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Other questions? If not, let us answer to these two questions, and then maybe we can come back to the participant. Okay, we have two questions. One from China about on the impact of AI on aqua and quality insurance. Elizabeth, do you want to open the answers?
Yes,
okay,
I will try. That was a very difficult question, but thank you for that. I think that, quality assurance tends to run behind the trends a little bit. It takes us a long time in the higher education sector to agree to quality assurance standards. It takes us even longer to implement them. It takes us even longer to implement them in a harmonized way across countries, in a way that it can facilitate the recognition of accreditation decisions in our respective countries and foster a quality assurance culture and environment in the higher education institutions. This is an example we've seen in Europe, for example, but I know it's been seen and is being seen in different African regions. And then I think if you put AI into the mix, where it's all happening so fast, no one really knows what to do with it. I think the advantage of generic standards like the African Standards and Guidelines for Quality Assurance is that they talk more about how institutions manage processes and less about how do we drill down to teaching and learning and with technological disruptors. The standards refer to general change management and university resilience and how that affects the relationship between professors and their students and between academic leadership and their hierarchy. So in that sense, the African standards for quality assurance are actually fairly robust. This being said, we've seen from other regions where there are continental or regional standards for accreditation and quality assurance that they do sometimes need a refocus. They need to be retooled. There will be a revision of the European standards and guidelines in Europe in the next 2 years. There will be a revision of the African standards and guidelines in 3 years' time at the end of the HAQUA initiative. That will mark 10 years of the African standards and guidelines. So I think you raise a very important question. And I think the point is that as much as we do want to standardize and harmonize, there's only so much we will do so. It's more about speaking a common language, talking about standards for change processes, for management, for governance, for how our quality assurance bodies relate towards institutions, support institutions, regulate institutions, but not drilling down at the very specific level of how we would manage AI in any one country or institution. That's the sort of
Thank you very
short answer I can find.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Before we give the floor to the other panelists, I would like briefly to give the floor to Professor Oyewole, who was supposed to be part of the panel, but because of other business, he cannot join us. So, Professor, you have a floor because you are part of the consortium of AQUA. So, of course, please give us your word.
Let me apologize that I will have been part of this panel, but for the meeting we've been called upon to have with the minister. I want to note that the AAU has been a good partner with OBRE and our other regional bodies in executing this initiative on harmonization of quality assurance in Africa. 2 or 3 areas that I want to emphasize, which probably must have been talked about before I came, which I may not know, is about the PAQUA, Pan-African Quality Assurance and Accreditation Agency. This initiative started about 7 years ago, and last year, AAU accepted to be the technical unit of the Pan-African Quality Assurance and Accreditation Agency. This is not going to be an agency again. I think we call it Alliance. We now call it Pan-African Quality Assurance and Accreditation Alliance, that will bring together national regulatory agencies in all countries of Africa so that we can have a harmonized system for carrying out quality assurance in the continent using the African standards and guidelines that has been developed. We want to involve every country in Africa in this initiative, and I want to thank the European Union who is supporting the program. Another one is the African Credit Transfer Scheme. In Africa today, we use different systems for assessing knowledge. Probably the concept of credit is not strange to universities in Africa. For example, in some countries, they tell you 1 hour of lecture by a lecturer on a course for 13 or 14 weeks is equivalent to 1 unit of course. And for those countries, credit is measured on the basis of the teacher. It is teacher-centered. But the way things are going on, development in the world now is to make credit to be student-centered, whereby you measure credit on the basis of workload on the learner. We are not trying to change your national system, but we want countries to understand what is going on in different regions, so that when a certificate is presented from another country to your country for any purpose, you understand the system they operate in. So all of us are involved in that. I guess that Elizabeth will have told you about regional integration. Very importantly, African higher education system has been divided on the basis of our colonial past. We do not want that to continue. We want to understand each other, know what is happening, and we hope that the way we are going, an engineer trained in East Africa will be free to operate or work in West Africa without being questioned. I believe that one of the change maker is the African standards and guidelines in quality assurance, which I hope that our national regulatory agencies will look into and see how they can adopt it to their various system. I hope that I've covered some areas, and I want to note that it's been a pleasure to work with OBRE Global over the years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Oyewole. for these three major points that was very important to mention. The first one on the question of the Alliance on Quality Assurance is really important. The question of the credit transfer in the system, LMD system, is also a key question. And the last one, very important, the academic integration point. Thank you very much. And okay, let us continue with the question, the key question on AI impact.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a difficult one because it's moving very fast.
Yeah.
And in terms of coming up with quality assurance on AI, we're a bit behind. That's why I asked that question. We are concentrating on the students.
Thank you.
What about the lecturers? What are they doing in terms of monitoring students when they're using AI tools? There is I saw an exhibit outside where you can actually track the student essays in terms of plagiarism and things like that. Yeah. So it's moving fast, and I think it's something that we also need as quality assurance practitioners, something we need to take into account as we move forward. Now, there was a question on relationships between CAMES Arua vis-a-vis private institutions.
Exactly. Yeah.
In Sarua, our organization, the members are both private and public institutions. So whatever we do, we involve everybody. But what we have noticed is that the uptake of these initiatives is quicker in public institutions. I don't know why, but that is our observation. Perhaps they are driven by government, ministers and things like that. But everybody is involved, and our private institutions, they participate in all these institutions. So we're not leaving anyone behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think we still have only 2 minutes. Let me give a short word, last word for each of the panelists. Or do you want to react to the questions, Professor Nzonga? Or let us give you the floor for your last words before we close the session, because we still have only 2 minutes. Let us start with CAMES. Your last word.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to say, as the Global Convention of UNESCO said, higher education provided by both public and private institutions is a public good and a public responsibility, and being aware of the need of uphold and protect of a principle of academic freedom and of the autonomy of higher education institution. That means there is only one higher education. ACQUA initiative gives the opportunity of public higher education to benefit from all his action.
Thank you very much, because we are running out of time. Thank you very much for your word. Professor Simukanga, the word from Sarua. Your last word, please.
Thank you very much. I think from Sarua, we are excited because our ministers are buying into these initiatives. I think that's a positive. And we think that with that support, the uptake of these initiatives in our institutions will be enhanced. So we just urge our institutions here who are not members of Sarua. I'm now doing marketing. Who are not members of Sarua to ensure that they become members, because there will be a lot of activities that are coming up. especially going into 2026 under the AQUA initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Professor Oyewole, do you want just one word before we close? Thank you very much. Okay, let us give the floor to Elizabeth,
Okay.
the head of the consortium.
Thank you so much. I actually think Professor Olewole said it best. And it had to do with the why of all of this. The fragmentation in African higher education systems, the colonial divide, and I think initiatives like this are really trying to take very tangible, concrete measures towards breaking down that fragmentation and reuniting the continent. And it sounds very wishful thinking, but if you just look at the work that's been done collaboratively between organizations like CAMES, IUCEA in East Africa, who was supposed to be on this panel today, but unfortunately couldn't attend, Sarua, which already represents a community where you have multiple African working language, Portuguese, French, English. So I think the fact that these organizations are coming together and working collaboratively on this platform under these concrete action lines with tangible outputs and benefits for their memberships is a key success in itself. And we can only thank the AAU for its continued partnership and leadership in the consortium, also in helping to bring these different actors together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. As we close this strategic session, I would like to extend my very warmest thanks to all the speakers and participants. This panel has highlighted how AQUA is enabling African-led progress in quality assurance, fostering structured and comparable data system, and facilitating cross-regional policy alignment. These are not isolated efforts. They are part of a broader and collective movement to strengthen the African higher education space. We now have both a responsibility and an opportunity to deepen this synergy, ensuring sustainability and continuous working together as institutions, as region, as a continent, toward a more integrated and credible African higher education system. Thank you once again for your active engagement and to continue your continued commitment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my liveliest audience. You've been so amazing since we began the event. And as custom demands, Mr. Frank Asifua, Senior IT Officer, AAU, please come up stage and do the normal thing we do. Put your hands together for Frank Asifua as he makes his way up here to share something very nice with our speakers and our chairperson. Whilst we prepare for another anticipated session on the program outline, the launch of a phenomenal platform, I will tell you right after the session. Just stay tuned. All right. A round of applause for this session wouldn't be bad. A nice one. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we wrap it up with a big applause. Just to them say thank you very much and a photograph.